Okay, so we're starting again. Sorry about that. Now we're actually going to glitter. So I'm going to dust. Had a little bit of fallout there. Okay. So I'm going to dip into the Mod Podge here. Doesn't take a whole lot. And the good thing with tie-dye is you really don't have to be too terribly perfect. I try to just kind of start here in the middle of the cup. And just going to just kind of zigzag out. I try to work in small areas at a time. I don't want to do too far. But in the beginning, this is probably the only one where I'll kind of go both ways with the stuff. So, and also, I only do probably 3 to 4 inches of Mod Podge at a time because I'm doing a very thin coat. We don't want this really thick. You kind of want a little bit of the white to show through. So you don't want to do too much at once. So get that little bit on there. I'm going to start with my red over my paper. I'm just going to put that on. Turn it over. Just tap it off. So you can kind of see where I started. Now, right now, it looks a little thicker than the lines are. This is something I do. It's a very soft, fluffy brush. I use it just gently, and even this is, right after I put it on. I can kind of clean it up to see exactly what my lines will look like. That's just what I've done. Some people, I think it makes them nervous. That's just how I've done it. So, continue on here. And like I was saying earlier, you want to try to do, my other tumbler had about 3 to 4 inches of space, but the reason you want to leave so much room is you've got to fit all those other colors, and you don't want to crowd anything or cheat one color out. So this is just kind of how you go, and I just do short strokes going out. You want them kind of wispy on the end. You're going to layer. Also, the red will be the only layer that I will go up and touch up after the cup is done. And that is because I want it to go on top of my purple a little bit. And I do the Roy G. Biv. You can do really any colors. Some people do all neons. There's so many different variations that can be done. So I'm just going to kind of wipe this off. And keep going here. Okay. And as I'm going, my circle is going to get bigger. It's not going to just go around. It's going to fan out some as we go. It kind of seems like this would probably take a while to do. It's not the fastest cup I can make by any means. Probably epoxy method with an ombre. It's pretty quick. So this definitely is a little more attention to detail, but definitely my best selling cup. And I think it's one of the funnest cups to do, really. So we're just going to kind of continue on. And I'm turning my cup as I go. So we're going to go all the way around. Okay. Keep rotating. We're going to go up toward the lip of the cup. And this particular cup was actually a bright blue, I how to describe it. It's kind of a metallic look over the stainless, and it has a really weird twist in the design of the cup. There are tumbler suppliers I know that carry this particular design. It's not one I generally use. I kind of like the traditional tumblers, but like I said earlier, for the tutorial purpose, just kind of went with something on hand. So if you're curious about that, I'm not exactly sure which supplier has them. I have seen them advertised though. So okay, all the way up to the end here. All right, so now here's the, I don't know, this may seem somewhat challenging. The colors are actually fairly close, so spaced here and on the back side. So this time I'm not going to go in with more red. Sometimes I'll have it a little closer and I'll have to kind of draw an imaginary line of the spiral if it were to come back around, where would it hit on the cup. To fill in, which as we go along I'll show you, but I don't add any more red. That kind of comes after. So you want one good round of each color before you start trying to fill in any spaces. Otherwise that you're going to end up crowding it or misjudging it, and you may not like your results. And I also suggest, even though I know this is not fully dry, so I can hear some people probably yelling, "What are you doing?" I gently wipe it off, and that's just to get excess glitter off of the cup, because as we go along, we're going to put in other colors, and I try to save all the fallout glitter. So we do that. So put that in there. Take paper, and of course I have some random glitters that show up every time. And I make this look more of a mess, of course, if I'm recording it than if nobody were here. What can you do? Okay, so now we're going to start back on this, and we're going to go to the orange, and I just got Mod Podge all over my brush here. All right, so we're going to go into the little crook of the spiral here and gently go on top, and just very uneven. The strokes don't need to be the same length, and we're going to go maybe 1/2 inch outside of the red and 1/2 inch over the red. I just find that's about a good distance to get all the different colors in and show everything. Some places I try to do a little more, some a little less, and the variation I think is what really helps everything. Okay, so put my orange. Now, as I do this, I'm not going to dust this one off just yet. I'm going to start just kind of keep going around before I start to brush the excess off. With the red, I just really needed to see where my line was. That's why I did that immediately. This one I'll wait just a little longer. I'm just going to follow this around. Let's see. Okay. And I like the really wispy looks to the brush strokes. So you don't want them perfect and stubby and to just stop immediately. You want that real thin Mod Podge, because that's what's going to kind of make the wispy ends of it, where it blends together and gives you a little bit of the white showing through. I don't know if you can see, but just, kind of just a quick flick of the wrist there. Sometimes I've even done this where if I have too much Mod Podge on my brush, I'll just kind of make a line of it and just, you know, smear it out real quick, and that seems to work just fine. And the little blobs of it are going to give you a little bit thicker coverage, which is also fine. You know, like I said, you're going to want the variation to it, so it's nice to have just the different coverage. Okay, keep going. And, you know, I've seen the painted, like I was saying earlier, the painted versions that are not done with all glitter. And I can't imagine that they would save a whole lot of time compared to this method. I could be very wrong because I haven't actually tried that yet. But I really like having it done in all glitter. I just think it's a little different than what I've seen out there. And when you get to the edge of the cup, let's see if helping my focus here. I go a little further on the lower one and cover up that edge right there. So that's how I take care of edges. Just gently do that. Okay. Alrighty. So there's where we're at right now. Now is when I'm going to go back, brush down, and take my big fluffy brush and just kind of wipe excess away from the orange that we just did. And it's very, very light touch. You don't want to just, you know, stab into it, because then you will move any Mod Podge that is still wet and kind of mess your line up. But if you do it with a light hand, I'll just take some off there, but we'll touch that up a little bit so it's still really wet. As long as you're using a light hand, I haven't found that it causes too much of an issue, actually. Okay, let's get our orange put away. Okay, on to our yellow. Ah. So same principle here, just fan it out. If you have one color you like more than another, obviously you could make that area a little bit thicker. Personal preference. And I will say it is a little bit more difficult to cover the orange with the yellow since it is a lighter color. Some brands are more opaque than others with glitter. The neon yellow is a little bit more see-through. I wouldn't call it, I don't think it's translucent, honestly, but definitely isn't going to show up as well on top of the orange, but it will lighten it up, so you kind of get the hint of it that it's there on top, and then you have your solid stripe of it below it. So kind of see that there. But I like how it covers right here. So you see the yellow, and it really looks more blended, I think, than you know, if it was more opaque. So just continue going around. And I think I said earlier, but I just do maybe 4-inch increments of Mod Podge at a time. I don't want it to dry too much. I've done that before, and it'll dry so much that you cannot get your glitter to stick, and you may not realize it till it's too late, and it's frustrating and irritating. So and I actually have not rinsed out my brush. Sometimes when you get it wet, your brush strokes will vary, and I know that sounds weird, but this one is a fairly stiff bristled small brush, and I like that the brush strokes that it gives. I think a softer one makes it hard to do the wispier ends on the cup. So that is one tip I will say. Something, you know, a little stiffer bristle to it helps. And when you wet it to get Mod Podge out, then you end up with a different kind of stroke to your paintbrush. And in all honesty, I'm really not mixing the glitters with the paintbrush. You have a few strays, obviously, but nothing that I'm terribly concerned about. And like I said earlier, I also put the Mod Podge in a little cup by itself, so I'm not, I guess, cross-contaminating, if you will. It's got a few flecks of glitter in it, you know, not the end of the world. And I do a little bit thicker on the yellow, because it's going to cover it up with the green some, and I just like the brightness it gives on the cup. The last one I didn't have as much yellow, and I wish I had. So I'm trying to remedy that as we go here. Okay. And same thing, the orange, just gonna cover up that lip and go all thin right there. Make sure it covers out some. Okay. I know this may be a question, you know, for some people still that I haven't addressed this. What goes next to the red, if we're doing the Roy G. Biv minus the indigo, would be purple. So when I get back here, like I said, I will address it. This is going to be the only part of the cup that I'm going to work my way backwards on, where I will do purple, blue, then green, possibly some little bits of yellow. But I do that one backwards only because I need to work out the other colors first and just see what's left after I do the purple. And that's just kind of how that ends up. So let me dust off the excess from the yellow here. Okay. Time for green. And like I said, I really like the yellow, so I don't want to cover it up. So this is, you know, kind of odd one out. Just a thicker line and barely kind of covering the yellow at the end. And I will say, I've done these cups, gosh, probably about 2 years. I guess this is the first time I really did a tie-dye cup like this. I go crazy looking at the cup and think it's wrong every single time I look at it. So if you make one, I'm going to tell you now, you're probably going to think, oh my gosh, I've messed it up. It looks crazy. It doesn't look right. You're not the only one's going to think that, because right now I'm looking at this thing going, yep, that doesn't look right. Don't remember it looking like this. This line looks too thick. That line looks too little. But I have to just convince myself, you know, every cup I go through this, just keep going. Not a big deal. And you can always add other areas when you're done too, if you need to. Like I'm thinking already right now, my blue and my purple, I may have some extra room. So I may even add a little more red. I guess I could always add a pink, like a violet-y, magenta, purple. I don't know. That makes sense what I'm thinking in my head. Can't read minds, but hopefully you know what I mean. So that may get added. I don't think it will as of right now. Okay, so now, and we want to, like I said, complete that spiral as we go each time. So I don't know if you can tell how far I went this time, but it'll kind of close in and you'll really know that's going all the way around the cup. So there's that. Dust it off best I can. And again, it's just very lightly. I'm not trying to dig excess color off. Just want to get a little of it off. To the side. Okay. Now on to our blue, and I'm going to come in same way. Little excess here. I don't know if anybody else talks to themselves while they're doing this, but I know that Facebook will violate standards if you have music playing and shut your video down. And I'm not so certain about YouTube, and I think that's probably how I'm going to upload this since I'm not doing a live. I was kind of nervous about it, so no music playing, so kind of humming to yourself over here. Okay. That. Get my blue on. There we go. And you can also, like I said, you can do the different colors. I'm not a huge fan of orange, so I'm not exactly disappointed looking at this now that my orange is the thinnest stripe that's on here. You can definitely change your colors and vary those. And I actually am, after I do the purple, probably gonna add more red. Red is probably the only color I will do a double layer of when I do these cups, and that is because I want it to go on top of my purple so it does look more layered. And yeah, that's really the only one I have to do that with. Okay, now when I'm getting to where I can almost complete my spiral here at the top, I'm going to kind of draw an imaginary line around, excuse my dog, and just kind of finish that area over here as to where the spiral would follow. And this is when I'll start filling in over here. And then you'll use this as a guide to kind of work your way backwards. So glitter this. I hope that makes sense. I know in my head it makes sense, but it may not verbally make sense. But hopefully seeing it will give you a better idea of what I mean. Okay. Continue our blue. And here I just need to really leave enough room for my purple and then to touch up a little red. So I don't want a whole lot of space now on this side of the cup. Keep going. All right, that's going all the way around there. Side. I'm going to start with the middle because that's going to be the most dry at the time. And just get rid of the excess glitter. Sorry, trying to make sure you see. I just wipe up and just the edges. I'm not really, not going to do that. just the edges so I can blend them a little better. And it does take a time or two to really kind of work it off the cup. And usually when you tap it, that's when anything on top of that will come off. Okay. Blue. And I forgot to have green paper for my purple. I just use scrap paper that I have laying around. I felt kind of guilty. One of the pieces of paper I have has pictures of my grandparents. I was trying to print a small 4x6 picture, and it came out on a large 8x10. So, you know, sorry, feel bad, but you see people's faces that look like loved ones on the paper. I do apologize. They're loved, I promise. They're not trash papers. Okay. So same thing, we're gonna cover up a little bit of the blue as we go around. And I do have a little more space than I normally do, so I think I'm gonna flip what I said here and make this a magenta pink and then do purple. So kind of got to make up my mind here. What am I doing? Okay, so this is gonna call for a new color here. Let's do, sorry, I don't know what y'all are seeing on the camera. This is a bright pink. This one's also by Tropical Glitz. It's called Kitty Punch. So I'm going to put it into a cup. We're going to use that to fill in between my blue and my purple. Executive decision on the fly here. And this one is a holographic type. It's a very magenta, bright pink, I guess. It's actually one of my favorite colors. And there are so many glitter companies that you can order, and you know, it's hard because sometimes the proceeds do go to great things, but they really are a lot of the same stuff, you know, and you find out a lot are made same factories in China, so sometimes you're paying for the name, but there's certain things that, you know, you're willing to do that for. And I'll admit I've bought glitter from some of those people, so nothing wrong with that. Whatever works for you and whatever budget you're doing, that's fine. You know, no reason to be up in arms about that. Okay. And I do angle my cup down when I'm doing the lip so it kind of falls off and not into my cup. And then when I flip it a different way, it didn't mix with another color, which has happened. Keep going here. I did not get as much of the excess blue off as I wanted, so you're going to see in this layer of Mod Podge that it's kind of mixing, and oh, it's driving me a little crazy. That's okay. It'll actually end up making it blend a little better to have the little flecks of the blue if it shows through, so not a problem. And that's one thing that I've learned with this. Do not try to force it, just kind of roll with it. You can always adjust it. It's not the end of the world. Heaven knows how many times I've done epoxy method and then had to make a second layer if I missed something or whatever. It happens. I'll be the first to tell you that. So, alright, round we go. And like right here, this is a lot closer to the red than up here. Totally fine, because again, tie-dye is not a perfect art, and you know, not equal amounts of every color. So I'm just gonna go in, and the bottom, gross. I'm just gonna coat the edge here where it's gonna go around. And this goes back to that whole filling in thing, because I could literally connect the dot of where this color would come up. So you'll see that again, next to the red is going to be purple, and that's how I meant on this back side, filling it in and working backwards. So I'm going to get that on there. Okay. Just coat the edge there. Forgive me, I find myself talking like Bob Ross. Happy little edge. Just coat the edge. Okay. Knock that off there. Okay. Keep going with our magenta color. So, and this blue here, it's kind of thin right there, so I am going to end up filling that in with a little more blue, especially now that I see where my colors are going to meet. When you get to the back side, this is where your color, it's not going to be in a swirl. So it's going to be a swirl coming this direction, and the swirl comes half a circle here, half a circle here. So this is where your color is going to be the V's, which on tie-dye shirts, it's probably the sides of your shirts. Ugh, excuse me. Sometimes you'll notice that. So you'll see it more in a minute, but I'm going to continue my 2 half circles of the spiral here, and then I'll just do like a V shape to fill in those areas. But I'm going to do this, get it on. See that? Brush it. And dry brush. And the finer the glitter, sometimes the better it sticks. Also going to go ahead and apologize. I think my dog's about to start barking. I think someone just pulled up at our house. And they may be coming in our door. So if he goes absolutely crazy, I'm sorry. I was trying to get this done before people got home. So I'm going to shake this off. I keep a silicone mat on my workspace, and thankfully that purple and the magenta are close enough that if a little bit mixes in, it won't be the end of the world. And I can see the magenta is on top of my blue. You can kind of see flecks of color. I'm going to let this dry fully before I take a brush to that area.